All right, dude, we are live. What's up, guys? This is Dem Keys, and today we are going to continue learning about Rust. More specifically, we are still focusing on, what do I even call this? This is like a mixture. What I'm learning here is a mixture of the turbofish syntax and how iterators are implemented and how generic type inference works. And it's getting pretty interesting because after a whole bunch of uh, after a whole bunch of distraction, I guess, after yapping about a bunch of other things for a while, we eventually got into Rust. And was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday was one of those rare occasions where I started up the stream early, and because of that, I was able to stream for, I believe I streamed for 3 hours. 3 hour streams are pretty rare for me. I usually only do anywhere between, uh, I don't know, hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Even 2.5 is kind of a stretch. It can be anywhere between hour and a half to 2 hours. That's my usual thing. So yeah, three hours was it was good. I mean, okay, all right. So I guess we're starting off the stream with a distraction. I shouldn't call it distraction because that makes it sound negative. This isn't really negative. It's not negative that I'm kind of branching out um, with another topic, because that other topic that I'm about to talk about is also of interest to me, and it's also something that's important to me. So I guess instead of saying distraction, I should say we're going to start out the stream by branching out into another topic first. And that topic is I want to talk about my auto clipper because I've kind of put it on hold for now. I've paused it for now, but I do want to continue. So far, it has been paused because I've been busy learning like the basics of Rust and doing other more advanced stuff in Rust, exploring stuff like petgraph, for example, and other crates, and basically doing a bunch of other stuff, because of which I had to put that on hold. But I do want to continue with that, and I'm trying to think of a decent pipeline, a decent workflow, let's say. Pipeline, technically, yeah. And this seems like it's going to need to be a multi stage pipeline, especially if I want to process multiple videos at once. It's not going to be multiple videos at once, but like at once in a sense. So it's like I can, if I divide this up into multiple stages, then I'll be able to do stuff like, okay, so I created the transcript for one VOD, and then I have that transcript, right? So I can then pass that to the further stages of the pipeline and do, other stuff that's required, but I don't need to do that right now, immediately. If I don't have those stages ready yet, then in preparation for those stages, I could run stage one on multiple other VODs that I have, because I plan on doing auto clipping for VODs starting from this year. So my first stream this year was the 3rd of January, and since then I've been streaming every day. So I have a good, like, we are at Jan 30 right now, the 30th. So we can say 26, 27 days, 6, 7. Anyways, we can say 26 or 27 days worth of VODs, right? So the data that I generate from this, the data that each stage generates, it doesn't need to be consumed immediately, right? That data can be written to a file, and then I can save that file, and I can have multiple directories where multiple directories as in one for each VOD. I can have multiple directories. I can just give them the name of. I can name the directories based on the date, because I usually only do one stream a day, and once in a while I might have multiple streams. That's a very rare occasion though. Once in a while I'll have multiple streams. In that situation, I could usually what I do is I let me do a comment here. So usually, let's say we are talking about today's date, right? So we'll do 30/01, which is Jan, and then 2026. So that's going to be the directory name. And even my Twitch VODs, when I download the VOD, I name it Twitch VOD, and then this whatever the date is, and then of course there's a .mp4. But in situations where I have two VODs on the same day, there's going to be two files with the exact same name, right? Because I am mentioning the date in the name. So what I do is in those rare situations, I just add an underscore one and then underscore two for the second VOD. So there will be these rare situations that I need to account for. I don't think that's going to be that much of an issue though. What I could do is I could just name the directory itself with underscore one and underscore two. Yeah, actually, I could do that. I could do that. I could name the directory with underscore one and underscore two, because there's no automated tool that I'm using to enumerate over these. What was I saying? Yeah, there's no automated tool that I'm running to enumerate over these directories. And if I ever do that, if I ever do that, then I can just account for the underscore and the number. So I can just add like a check or something there. This actually reminds me of something. I did have a question that I wanted to ask Gemini. See, I said we weren't going to get distracted, but we are getting distracted. But then this is not a distraction, because again, I don't want to call this a distraction, because this is yet another one of the things that I'm doing on stream. This is one of my other projects. Anyways, okay. So I'm planning on I'm writing the prompt to Gemini. By the way, I need to check what is being shown here. Okay, that's the turbofish. Okay. Right. I'm planning on working on a Rust project that involves file names as well. File names, title names, etc. As you know, well, yeah, as you know, there is a chance for such names to have um, to have a space in them, or maybe characters that might not be allowed everywhere. Um, so let's say, for example, I wanted to set the name of a file, or well, I wanted to use the name of a file as a name for an HTML page. Of course, we can't have spaces in such a name, otherwise the URL wouldn't be valid. In such situations, which crate should I be using to solve this issue? And what is the solution exactly? The solution that I'm looking for, which I'm pretty sure someone has made a crate for this, but the solution that I'm looking for here is that there's going to be some kind of crate where I feed in a file name, and based on certain parameters, it's going to give me an acceptable version of that exact same file name. Because I have to write a processing tool, a processing pipeline kind of thing for my knowledge base, because there's a bunch of knowledge and information and stuff that I'm kind of gathering. And now there's three different versions. There's one is my knowledge base by itself. Another is, hold on. What I could do in that case, would that work? I don't know if that would work. I could write it down as Markdown and then use Pandoc to um, to parse the entire thing. I could do that. I could do that. See, because every now and then I write threads on various like social media. Recently, I wrote one which had to do with the compiler stages, the various stages of the compiler. That was the situation where I was wondering why, even though there were move errors, we weren't seeing the move errors. Instead, we were seeing argument related errors, which those errors were also there, but I was wondering why it was either or, words. I was wondering why it was either or, as in it was showing one over the other, and only after I would solve that one error, then it would show the other move related errors. Well, after doing some research on the compiler, um, we found out that the code it gets compiled into multiple different forms. So the compilation happens in multiple phases, and one of those phases is the HIR phase, the high level intermediate representation. In this stage, you have a certain number of checks that are performed. One of those checks is type checking, and part of type checking is arity checking, which involves checking for, I don't know all the things that are involved in it, but that's definitely one of the places where arguments for function calls are checked. So if you have not mentioned an argument that is required, then this is where it's going to be caught, right? So that's HIR. After all the checks have been done in HIR form, and we're done with the HIR phase, then it moves on to the MIR phase, which is mid-level IR. And in that phase, there's a bunch of other checks that are performed, including borrow checker related checks. So that's where our move error gets caught. And the reason we weren't seeing that before is because, or rather, the reason we see the argument related error first and the move error second is because in any of these multiple phases of the compilation, if there's ever an error found, the compiler just stops the compilation there. It doesn't further compile the code. That's why the move error doesn't get caught, because the compilation got stopped in one of the higher stages, and the compiler wants us to complete that and fix those errors, and then it can uh, move on to the next stage. Right, I forgot. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was asking Gemini about this. So, dealing with file names and URLs in Rust can be a bit of a minefield because quote unquote safe means different things. Did I use the word safe? Well, okay, no. I think Gemini was saying about URL safety. Quote unquote safe means different things depending on the context. A valid file name on Linux might be an illegal file name on Windows. True. And almost certainly won't be a valid pretty URL. To handle to handle this efficient to handle this effectively, you should look at slug generation or percent encoding depending on your goal. The clean URL approach, slug, if you want to turn a title like my space great space file exclamation mark, and then there's so okay, let me write it down. What's here? So if you want to turn my wait, don't do that. Hold on. Okay. My great file, and then this, and let's say I think it said 2014, 2024. So this is the file name, just as an example, right? This obviously cannot be used in a site URL, right? These this is not gonna work. And there's other situations as well where this is just not gonna it's just not gonna work. So using slug, we can convert this into a URL friendly string like this. So this becomes my great file 2024. This is what I'm looking for. This is exactly what I'm looking for. The slug crate is the industry standard. Why use it? It it handles lowercase conversion, removes special characters, and replaces spaces with hyphens. The solution, so and so. Okay, nice and simple. Then data integrity approach is percent encoding. If you need the URL to point exactly to a specific file name without losing information, example, keeping the spaces but making them web safe, use percent encoding. Use the percent encoding crate. Why use it? It converts unsafe characters into so and so format, like turning a space into, oh, okay. This is the, okay. I didn't know that that's called percent encoding. So like if you look at data if you look at the characters in like a URL, sometimes you'll see characters that are specified using percentage signs, or using the percentage symbol. This is used to substitute characters. So this is a space, for example, and you'll see this very commonly in like various other places. This is interesting. Okay, I wasn't aiming for that specifically. I think that would unnecessarily complicate my situation. In my case, I think slug, what is it called? Slug encoding? Um, Using slug. Let's slugification. Okay, cool. Because there's a function in the slug crate called slugify, and I'm just going to say slugification. So we can use the slugification approach. That is not easy to say. I should not say slug. There you go. Tripped up already. Um, I should not say slugification because it is not easy to say. Anyways, back to this. So comparison of strategies. That's fine. Yeah, cool. I do not need, because like okay, here it's talking about this thing pointing to a specific file. I don't need it. I need it to point to a specific file, sure, but I also need it to I also need the file name to be simple enough. I don't want the file name to get super complicated with, you know, the percentage encoding and stuff. My idea is that every single entry that I have, where is my knowledge base? Did I put the knowledge base here? I think it's here. I think I put the knowledge base here. Um, do I have, this is my update thing. This is Linux install. Um, where did I put the TUI journal? Here. So this is the TUI journal. I plan on converting this entire thing into this. This is my knowledge base. Basically, there's a bunch of entries in here. Um, so far, I don't know how many entries are there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 11 entries so far. And there's going to be much more over time. And this is just one. This is not the only thing. This is one. Then my conversations with Gemini, like the one I'm having over here in this. Hold on. This. So this is where Gemini is teaching me the basics of Rust. This is another very good example of something I want to definitely keep around. I was having another conversation with Gemini about waves. I think maybe I'll keep that around. That is actually already converted to, I can show you guys that. Hold on. CD, it's nuts. CD, scratch stuff, empty, and what all is here? Yeah. So if you look at the names here, there's explains digital audio, Fourier and music, and explains wave properties, explains waves in general. I can open up explains waves. What was it called? Frogmouth. Frogmouth. Okay. Another thing I'm wondering if I should look into is nah nah. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not too sure. See, okay, there are two approaches that I can take here. One approach, which would actually allow me to, um, which would actually allow me to embed images into the files. That approach is using Markdown. I think I'm going to go with something that's well known, like Common Mark. I'll have to see how to wait, no, Zola sites support Common Mark, right? This is going to be a static generated site, a site generated using a static site generator, specifically generated using Zola, and Zola uses Common Mark. So what I could do is moving forward, because the thing is, right, this journal approach, which wait, hold on, uh, wrong one. I need to wait, getting lost here. Yeah. So this journal thing is actually really simple for me. It's a much simpler approach. I just open up, I can open up any, like if I create a new entry, I can then open it up in NeoVim and then type out my entire thing, and then I'm good to go. Right. And what I planned on doing with, in terms of the posting the content to the site, I was planning to um, basically just print out this text as is. So if we have like a list here, the list would be printed out as it is. Um, I, I don't have any other like structures that I can show you as examples. And a lot of these seem to be going towards the end of, wait. Yeah, so this is another good one. This is the setting up the VR chat world building thing on Linux. Um, how do I wanna go about this? Because like, okay, here I would have to make a decision, right? I can either stick with this approach, which means that I'm not going to be able to embed images. But to be fair, I was not planning on embedding images in there to begin with. However, my recent post that I made on X, Twitter, um, it involved images, and the knowledge in that was good enough, at least in my opinion, it was good enough that I feel like I want to share that on my website as well, along with the embedded images. Um, I don't think just doing a plain text kind of thing is going to work out that well. But also, Zola uses Common Mark. So it uses Markdown. It uses a Common Mark version of Markdown, right? Why not have all of my knowledge base stuff? Actually, okay, I just remembered this. One of the main reasons why I had my knowledge base here in TUI Journal was because initially I did not intend on dumping this entire knowledge base onto a website. I just wanted to have a knowledge base so I can like refer to it in the future. And I have had plenty of situations where I had to come back and take a look at the knowledge that I've like written down here. Maybe it's, let's say, uh, no, we don't need to save that. Maybe it's, let's say, something like this. Um, uh, Wait, give this a second because it seems to be from. I can do it from here. Yeah. So whether it's something like this, what was I saying? I was showing this. So this is a good example, right? The RTMP server through which I'm currently streaming whatever is being shown. Like I'm doing all of this TMUX stuff on my, well, at least on one of the screens that you guys see. The one specifically right now that I'm scrolling, that I'm showing TUI Journal in. This I'm doing this on my Ubuntu machine, and I have OBS capturing whatever is being shown there in the terminal, and then that feed is being streamed over RTMP across the network. And then on my streaming machine, the machine from which I'm streaming to Twitch, on that machine, I've written a simple Python script that grabs that RTMP feed and then shows it in a window. So what you guys are seeing here is basically that window, that RTMP feed window through Python. So okay, anyways, this is a good example of knowledge that I might need to come back to, because starting up the RTMP server, it requires you to go to this specific directory. You have to go into OBJS, and this is all within the trunk directory of the SRS folder. So it requires you to go into objs/srs, and then in there, actually no, SRS is not a directory. It requires you to go into objs, and then in objs you have to fire up the SRS binary and pass a configuration file, a config file. The specific config file you need is specifically rtmp.conf. You don't need to use any of the others. Fortunately, they have given you like a bunch of example config files. Initially, I was having massive trouble getting RTMP set up because the in the example code that they had given, they were pointing us towards a different config file, which had a bunch of other settings, settings for stuff that I wasn't going to be using. And then I finally found this in the conf folder. I can actually show you guys this in a different thing. Oh, good. I have the thing open. So if you look at the path here, it's program/srs/srs. So SRS, the lowercase SRS, that's where the actual like program thing begins. That's the actual like program directory. And then in that there's a trunk directory, and in the trunk directory we have a bunch of these other directories and files. So the SRS binary that you need to fire up SRS is in the OBJS directory. So if I do this, then you'll see, well, let's list out all the stuff under OBJS. So you can see SRS in there as well as a binary. Here's the interesting thing, okay? You have the conf uh, directory. Where's conf? Oh shit, I CD'd into it. Wait, I need to CD back. I was supposed to do ls. There's a bunch of config files here. One of them is the RTMP conf. I believe I was using SRS conf instead of RTMP, and SRS contains a bunch of like very general purpose stuff. So like not everyone is going to be using SRS for RTMP. It supports various protocols, so you can set up different types of servers using SRS. So yeah, you have to know where to find the RTMP conf file. You have to know that you need to use the RTMP conf file. Also, going back to this, there's a different directory, or there's a different SRS binary in a different directory structure where you would look for the status of your current SRS server. So if you already have an SRS server running, in this case I can run etc initd SRS status. You can see it says SRS is running. And if I want to stop the server, then I would just run this, but I'm not going to run that because that's going to, kill the SRS server. So yeah, all of this information, I'm not going to remember it like 6 months down the road. And so at some point, if I'm ever in a situation where my system has restarted and because of that, I've kind of lost all of the terminal sessions that I had going on, and then I have to restart all of those sessions, one of them being this. So I'll have this information available to me. So this is one example of why I would need this kind of a database. But at this point, I'm wondering. I mean, okay, I could still use this database. What I'm thinking is, what if I tried to embed a Markdown viewer into a Ratatouille application, so I can then try and make my own? No, that might get unnecessarily complicated. The idea is basically that I want to provide the option if I if there's ever a need for it. I want there to be an option to render Markdown. Of course, when you're rendering it in the terminal, then it's going to be limited. And I am kind of like fluent in Markdown. It's not a very complex language. If you are doing like more complicated things, then yeah, there will be a bunch of things you have to remember. But very basic Markdown, I already know it because I've had to do it so many times with like GitHub that I remember it. I need to see how different Common Mark is from Markdown, and I then also need to look into something that would allow me. I mean, I could just write these. So far I have 11 entries here, right? I could I could just edit every single one of them to have Common Mark, and then I'll further from that point, any new entry that I make, I can I can render it out in, or well, I can write it in Common Mark, and that'll simplify that step for me. So then I can convert my um, Markdown thing. I should, okay, hold on. If I write something in Common Mark, dude, holy shit, we are like what, 40 minutes into the stream now, I think. That's crazy. I was saying that we're not going to have any distractions, but well, we have a distraction. Okay, 30, 35 minutes into the stream. Whatever. I plan on, no, wait, tell me the difference between Markdown and Common Mark. I'm not going to give like a whole story that, hey, I'm planning on doing this and this and this and this. Okay, think of the relation. Think of the relationship between Markdown and Common Mark as the difference between a local dialect and a standardized dictionary. Markdown and Common Mark. Okay, all right. While they are fundamentally the same language, Common Mark was created to fix the "it works on my machine" problem that plagued early Markdown users. Markdown, the original, it was created by John Gruber in 2004. The original Markdown was designed to be a simple way for non coders to write for the web. It converted plain text into HTML. The problem, the original specification and the Markdown PL script was slightly ambiguous. It didn't define exactly what should happen in edge cases, like what happens if a nest list inside a block quote, if you nest a list inside a block quote but forget a space. Okay. The result, developers started creating their own flavors, such as GitHub flavored Markdown, Stack Overflow, Markdown, etc. To fix the gaps, eventually, the same piece of text started looking different. Oh, wait, no, they created their own flavors to fill the gaps. Eventually, the same piece of text started looking different depending on which app you use to view it. Okay, so then Common Mark, the standard. In 2014, a group of developers, including engineers from GitHub and Stack Overflow, decided Markdown needed a rigorous, logical specification. This became Common Mark. The goal, to create a highly compatible, strictly defined version of Markdown so that every parser produces the exact same HTML output. The difference, Common Mark isn't a new language, it's a standardized rule book for the original language. It focuses on edge. So is Common Mark more about, it's is it more to do with the parsing of Markdown and less to do with the language itself? Because the language doesn't seem to be changing. This seems like more this seems like creating a standard behavior, creating a standard like deterministic approach, a deterministic output. So you know that this input is going to give you that specific output because we are following a fixed set of rules. But the way that you give the input is not going to change. It's the way that the input is interpreted that's going to change. Or, well, be standardized rather. I think that's the case. Hold on, give me a second. Yeah, okay. All right. Why does this matter to you? Wait, there's a table that's given here. Quick comparison. Common Mark and Markdown. Origin created by so and so, created by so and so. Specification for Markdown is loose and sometimes ambiguous. For Common Mark, it's highly detailed and mathematically rigorous. Consistency for Markdown, the results vary between apps and parsers. Common Mark, identical results across all platforms. Extensions for Markdown are very basic, no tables or footnotes. Oh, I didn't know tables were not part of the original Markdown thing because, yeah, I've seen, like, my introduction to Markdown was through GitHub. So, what I initially started doing in terms of Markdown was just GitHub flavored Markdown. I wasn't doing other type of Markdown because at the time the only place where I was seeing Markdown output or the output of my Markdown was on GitHub, and that was using GitHub flavored Markdown and GitHub's own Markdown parser. Sorry, zoned out. Okay. Extensions for common mark, strict core, but designed to be extended. All right, why does this matter to you? If you are just writing a simple README file or a blog post, you won't notice a difference. However, if you are a developer building an app, you'll likely choose a common mark compliant parser because it ensures your user's text won't break when they move it between different platforms. Fun fact, most of the markdown you use today on sites like GitHub or GitLab is actually a flavor built on top of the common mark foundation. Okay, so let me see if I understand this correctly. So common mark is a standard slash specification that is being proposed by the community for everyone to follow so that we can get deterministic deterministic results each time rather than different results per parser. So um, using markdown using markdown versus common mark is less about using is less about a change in the language and more about a change in the parser used to parse the language. I think at least on a basic level this might be true. I don't know about advanced concepts because as it was mentioned, table apparently wasn't part of the original markdown concept. Okay, spot on. You've hit the nail on the head. It is exactly that, a shift from intent-based parsing to rule-based parsing. In these in the early days, markdown parsers essentially tried their best to guess, quote unquote guess, what you meant. Common mark removes the guesswork. If you write a piece of syntax, the common mark spec ensures that parser A and parser B will treat it exactly the same way down to the last p tag. There's a p tag. Well, okay, that's one of the more advanced. It's not really even advanced. I just haven't looked into it. But yeah, that's one of the higher level things that I haven't done. I've done like basic stuff, heading, list, code, quote. Um, I think I've done table maybe, but yeah, there are some like further advanced things that I haven't done. Oh, embedding images, I've done that as well. Creating links, but yeah, there are definitely more advanced things that I haven't looked into. This looks like a p tag from HTML. I don't know if that's even a thing in Markdown. I'll have to see. Okay, the language versus the parser distinction. To your point about being a change in the parser, here's how it looks in practice. Imagine you have a messy bit of nesting like this, list item link so and so, and the URL is being shown in italics. Okay, the original Markdown parser might get confused. Does the asterisk inside the link close the list item? Oh, okay. Yeah, I just noticed that. Here's what's being shown. Hold on. Let's copy that. And I can put it into, what should I put? Okay, I can close this. Let's go back to Rust. And let me drop it in these comments. Here's what it's showing. So if you look here, there's an asterisk, and that's for creating a bullet point. You can use asterisk, you can use hyphen. I forgot if there's anything else that you can use, but yeah, you can. There's a couple of characters that you can use to mention that yeah, this is a list. And when you have nested lists, Markdown automatically assigns different symbols to each of them, just so you can distinguish between the parent list and the child list. And as you keep nesting, it'll further change symbols. Okay, all right. Right. So the original Markdown parser would get confused. Some parsers would give you a broken link, others give you a list. Okay, common mark parsers follow a massive 1,000 page specification, 1,000 plus page specification that dictates exactly which character, quote unquote, wins in that conflict. The proposed versus the standard status. You mentioned it's being proposed versus it started. No, what? No, wait. You mentioned it's being proposed, quote unquote, being proposed. While it started as a proposal, it has effectively become the industry benchmark. Most major platforms didn't throw away their old features to switch to Common Mark. Instead, they rebuilt their engines to be Common Mark compliant and then added their custom features like at mentions and strike through on top of it. This is why you often hear the term GFM, GitHub Flavored Markdown. It's Common Mark plus GitHub's extra spices. All right. Um, I have a local knowledge base that I maintain that um, where I write out text in plain form for the sake of being able. Well, okay, wait. I plan on par- parsing, converting, let's say converting, on converting that entire knowledge base into HTML form so I can uh, put it into my Zola website where each entry has has its own page. I'm going to be writing a tool to handle all of the file generation and stuff. What I'm wondering is, since Zola supports Common Mark, would it be better for me to, moving forward, um, write my knowledge base entries in Markdown instead of plain text? Because I feel like in that way I would also be able to embed images in there if need be. And um, oh yeah, I'll have to handle the image thing as well, right? Yeah, I'll need to handle the image thing. At that point, I don't think I can even use TUI journal for that. Yeah, dude. At that point, I don't think I can even use TUI journal. I would need to write my own TUI journal because I kind of want to split up each entry into its own directory. Yeah, if I'm able to give like images, then that would definitely help out a lot. But then at the same time, dude, I feel like adding images would, I feel like adding images would make things a little bit heavy. I don't know if I want images on there. But then images help, dude. Images give you like a visual representation of what you're supposed to be seeing. So I can, like, for example, show errors. That's important too. Okay, what I could do is I could write the thing in Markdown and then decide if I want images in there or not. Because the current way that TUI journal is set up, you don't have like different directories, right? For each entry, you don't have different directories. You have, how would I make this viewable? If I did do that, how would I make this viewable at all? I guess I would need to come up with my own workflow for a knowledge base. So I could have like a workflow where I first create a directory with the name for the knowledge base entry, and I then, no, hold on. Yeah, I would need to create. How do I want to go about this? Because there's, if I write this entire thing myself, there's so much that I can do with it. There's a lot that I can do with it. And I can export, I can write an export pipeline to export the entire knowledge base into, I actually at that point, like, it'll be less about having to parse anything at all, because the entire thing is being written in Markdown anyways, right? It'll be more about just moving files and directories around and reorganizing them in ways that are acceptable to the Zola website or the Zola system. Yeah, dude, I'm getting an idea for something here. I'm just not sure what I want to do exactly. I am getting ideas though. Like, what I'm thinking is I could have something that I could have an application that generates. I could have an application where I can create an entry, and then that entry is given its own directory, and I'll maintain a sort of hash set, I guess, of the directories. So the directory names will all be hashes of what the actual, like, text name is, and that will allow me to rename entries. Though, I mean, it's not important for me to rename the entries. I'm just uh, doing that so I don't have to name the directories with the same name as the knowledge base entry. So that gives me the convenience of being able to rename the thing if I choose to do so. And then I'll have to maintain a separate table where where we have the knowledge base names and where we have the knowledge base names and the, sorry, I was getting distracted with something. Yeah, I would have to maintain a separate table where we would have the knowledge base names and their corresponding directory names. Though I don't think I need to maintain, I I don't think I need to maintain a corresponding directory name. I can just maintain the names of the entries, And um, anytime an entry gets renamed, before accepting the rename change, what I can do is I can look at the old name and then find the directory based on the hash of that name, and then generate a hash based on the new name, and first rename that directory and then replace this entry's name with this old name of the entry with the new entry name. I could do that. Okay, hold on. Dude, holy shit. We were supposed to be looking into Rust stuff, and now here I am. Holy shit, dude. We're like, what, 50 minutes, 55 minutes into the stream. Give me a second. I need to take a short break in just a couple of minutes. I think what I'll do is I'll also run the ad because I think there's an ad that plays every 30 minutes. When's the next ad? Oh no, the next ad break starts in like 34, 35 minutes. Yeah. Never mind. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna play an ad, but I do need to step away for a couple of minutes. So I'll be back. All right, I'm back. Okay, so I was asking this question to Gemini because I feel like, okay, I'm reading out what I was saying because I feel like in that way I would be able to embed images in there if need be. Um, and yeah, um, I do most of my work in the terminal. Um, However, no, most of my work in the terminal, and even reading the knowledge base entries would be done in the terminal. However, that's not that much of a deal breaker um, uh, for using Markdown. At some point, I might write a dude. You know what I could do? I could make my Markdown, not Markdown. I could make a viewer exactly like this. My viewer? No, I could make my TUI. I could make my own knowledge base application pretty much like this because I like the layout that they've given here. What was the thing for new? I think it's N. Yeah. So this is how you create a new journal entry. If I didn't have this whole thing, so zoomed in, you would probably be able to see a lot more. Um, a lot more in terms of UI. You'd probably be able to see a lot more then. But oh, actually, I could show you guys a lot more. Um, Hold on. Let me open up because I need to open a new tab. So let's open this. We need to cd into work, and then I believe TUI journal. Yeah, okay. TUI journal data, and then TUI journal. I think it's T journal. T journal C. Um, I don't remember. Config toml. I think so. No, what is the? See, I forgot what I was supposed to be using. I think I also made a an entry for. I think I also made an entry for that. Hold on. I think maybe I did. I don't remember. C. Oh, it's just C config toml. Okay. Tjournal C config toml. Right. So this isn't all that better, but it's something. Oh, instead of wait, I could show you guys in another, but no, I'm currently capturing this. I mean, I don't think it's gonna make that much of a difference to anyone. Um, this is what it looks like. This is the TUI journal uh with a tiny bit more space, and this is what the UI thing looks like. I kind of wanted to show it in a different terminal window. No, you know what? We'll do that. We'll do that. Wait. I'm gonna create a new console window. We can create it right here, I guess. And this is wait, okay. I think I also set the color scheme for console to be rose pine, which I guess that works out well. tjournal c config. Yeah, this has a bit more, and I can zoom out further so then it's much more visible. Yeah, let me close this and open this. And I need to get OBS to capture this window. So let's do that and select application window, TUI journal, share, OK, and there it is. So this is what the thing looks like um, in its entirety. I can this is what the UI looks like. I was expecting a few more options to pop up, but that's fine. It didn't. Um, oh, there's also this tags list. These are tags that I believe these are tags that I've used so far. So it's kept like it's maintained a list of the tags. Now, okay, here's the thing, right? I'm gonna need to create a different directory for every single entry solely because I want to be able to um, put images in there. But at the same time, I feel like that really, really complicates things. Yeah, I feel like that really complicates things. Because if I didn't do that, I would be able to continue using this exact same tool that I'm using right now, which is amazing, by the way. TUI Journal it has been amazing for me. Yeah, I should probably not do that on stream. I should probably not do that on stream because that is risky. Which thing are we looking at? There's T journal. Oh, that's what I was going for, isn't it? That's not what I was going for. Is it? Which one is open right now? What is it capturing right now? I can't tell what it's capturing right now. Oh, this is what it's capturing. Then what am I seeing over here? Oh, yes. Okay, okay. Yeah. I just remembered. Yep. Okay. I had done something and that is what it was capturing. Let me just close all of this stuff so it's not hella confusing for me. Let's do this and tmux attach and that, and we are good to go. Right. So there are multiple ways that I can go about this, right? If I do go with the image option, it's gonna be helpful because I'll be able to specify well images. Actually, no, not just images. If I go with the markdown option, I can specify images, I can specify tables, I can create like full on posts then. And then the only like little, if you can even call it a complication, the only complication there would be rendering this page into in the terminal. But that's more of a me problem. That's not anybody else's problem because um, I'm building this for the website. I'm building this to be able to post it on the website. The thing is, my own knowledge base, I don't plan on accessing it through the website. But maybe I should because I'm going to be putting three different types of knowledge bases on there. Dude, I feel like I should just change the title of today's stream. Holy shit. Um, anyways, yeah, there's going to be three types of knowledge bases on there. One Actually, no, no. Now it will be two types because previously, why I was saying three earlier, much earlier on in the stream, the reason I was saying three was because one type is going to be this TUI journal, this TUI journal database, knowledge base. This is going to be one for sure. Another is going to be the the Gemini conversations that I have. That's going to be another one. And another one was going to be the knowledge base that I generate for the Twitter threads that I'm making. Because in those threads, I do put out like a bunch of useful information. Not necessarily always. Like sometimes it's just me giving an update on what I've been up to. But then the more recent one, which was more like explaining that, hey, this is what happens and this is why it's happening, and here's a little breakdown of what's going on and stuff like that. um I feel like those kinds of things, they need to be cataloged somewhere, they need to be like recorded somewhere. um yeah, so these are the three different types of knowledge bases. As I was mentioning all of these, something just occurred to me. what if what if I made my own uh, TUI app for my knowledge base entries, and um, yeah, what if I made my own knowledge base app, and in that app I would be able to keep track of, or I would be able to store either my own custom written markdown um, threads, my own custom written markdown, you know, post, or a Gemini conversation, because both of them are in Markdown. I just realized that both of them are going to be in Markdown. Now, if moving forward, if I'm making all of these posts in Markdown, then technically both are going to be in Markdown because I'm exporting those conversations, the Gemini conversations, in Markdown form. And there's a bunch that I need to export there. Like I need to, holy shit, there is a bunch that I need to export there. I also need to get back to the Lua slash NeoVim conversation that I was having, because that was actually a very productive conversation. I didn't finish it though. I finished learning Lua through it. Yes, okay. Thank you for that. I don't know if that came through on stream. Loud ass car. But okay, and this is a car that was like off in, like way off in the distance. This is from the highway. That is a good like um I don't know, half a kilometer away. This motherfucker's car is so loud that it came through. Never mind. Okay. It also doesn't have that I have the window open. Uh Rather than, having the window closed and having the AC on, because right now it's nighttime, and it just so happens that today it's cold enough at night that I keep the window open. And now generally during winter, I am keeping the window open at least during the evening and nighttime. Um, but yeah, anyways, that's whatever. So I could do this. I could actually do this, and this would only work if I how would I specify? So if it's a, like, there has to be a a certain workflow where I specify. So, okay, if each entry, let's say each entry is given its own directory, and in there I have the markdown file for that specific post, for that specific entry, then I need to also have the images within that same directory, right? I need to have the images within that same directory because that's the only way that the markdown file is going to actually find the images. Dude, I also just realized that I need to see what the limit is on GitHub because this site is going to be hosted on GitHub, right? GitHub file, GitHub website max size. Yeah, I need to look into that as well because there's going to be a bunch of like images. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You know what? No, this is important. This is, yes, I should do this because, okay, it is important to me that no matter what happens, this knowledge that I'm kind of cataloging into these knowledge bases slash knowledge base, um, it's important to me that this remains online forever. So for one thing, the entire knowledge base is going to be uploaded to GitHub and it's going to be constantly updated from GitHub, right? The issue is with all of these images and stuff, man, if I start including images, it is going to become heavy. Yeah, yeah. If I start including images, it is definitely going to become heavy. I'll have to apply some sort of compression. Okay. GitHub has a recommended repository size limit of 1 GB for optimal performance and a strong recommendation to stay under 5 GB. While there is no hard cap on the total size of a repository, very large repos may experience performance issues or receive an email from GitHub support requesting corrective action. Okay, so I should not be relying too much on images, but I still do want the entire thing to be like markdown based. I still do want the entire thing to be markdown based because like that markdown can then render in a much better looking, it can have a much better looking presentation on the website. Man, it's crazy because initially when I was doing this when I was working on this whole knowledge base thing, I was aiming for like plain text, completely plain text. Though now I don't have an issue with it because I don't have an issue with turning it to Markdown because I'm comfortable with Markdown. I know Markdown, and anything new that has to be added, I can add that in Markdown. All the stuff that I'm doing in terms of creating like a blog post, it's not all that complicated. Like the Markdown used for that is not all that complicated. Give me a second. Let's get back to this and this. What is this? Gemini Electronics course. Gemini Electronics. Oh yeah, dude. I had to set up. I forgot, dude. I had to set up the prompt for that because I want to get started with that as well. I want to learn that side by side with um with digital electronics, with the ESP32 Rust stuff. I want to learn this side by side with it. So like here's what I want to do, right? I want to I want to set up a prompt where I tell Gemini that I'm looking to learn analog electronics. Okay, I know very little about analog electronics, but let's assume that I know nothing about analog electronics. And let's assume that I have entered the world of electronics through digital electronics through the use of microcontrollers. So we know that I have an ESP32, that I'm using Rust to program, and I let's assume I have the entire tool chain set up. I know how to set up the entire tool chain, um, and I have a fixed list of discrete components. I forgot if they're called discrete components or like what. I think they're called discrete components. I have a fixed list of components. I have LEDs, resistors, capacitors, transistors, diodes, switches, jumpers, a breadboard. I can also include the fact that I have a timer IC. I have a couple of AND gates. I have decoders. I have um, shift registers. I can mention that I have all of these things and I want to learn analog electronics through the use of microcontrollers. So, set up a course for me where we start learning analog electronics, and we assume that I know nothing about analog electronics and I'm coming from the world of digital electronics. Or I shouldn't even say digital. Let's assume that I know nothing about analog electronics, um, but I do know how to program an ESP32. I have the tool chain set up. I know conceptually what I'm supposed to be doing, or rather, I know implementation wise what I'm supposed to be doing. So, for example, um, turning GPIO pin 5 high or low, or sending a PWM signal from whatever, I don't know, pin 20 or something, or even reading serial input from whatever pin. So, in terms of an exercise, Gemini can then Gemini can then tell me conceptually what it wants me to do, and then I will figure out a way to do that exact same thing using my components and the microcontroller. Now the thing is, and I've seen this I've seen this happen. Like there are threads on Twitter where people are talking about how they asked Gemini a certain question, or I think in that case it was ChatGPT. It wasn't Gemini, though. I have had situations with Gemini where I had to call it out on its its mistake. I don't remember if that was. I think there might have been an electronics related thing there as well. I think one of the things there was relating to piezoelectric speakers, piezoelectric diaphragms. Oh, speaking of which, yeah, I did order that as well recently. I need to mention that as well. That I ordered one of these. Not one. It's a pack of 20. So that's something that can output stuff. Another thing I should probably also mention is the fact that I have opto isolators. Though initially, the less complicated I can make the circuit, the better it is for me. I kind of want to stick with not complicating the circuit way too much. Dude, you know what I'm wondering? Should we sit down and write down the entire prompt right now because I am going deeper into this. Like, by the way, dude, okay, since we're already distracted, I'm gonna rename the VOD to whatever. Like, I was I don't know what all did we talk about. We talked about Markdown a lot. We talked about like my knowledge base um, software design that I need to work on. I should note that down somewhere because I'm gonna forget the idea. But yeah, I'll rename the VOD later on. Under website architecture, what did I write for the knowledge base? Yeah, this is gonna need some updating. This is definitely gonna need some updating. This is definitely gonna need some updating. Oh yeah. I need to find a way to I need to find a way to load image files. I wonder if I can write a small like WASM binary, or well, write the program in Rust and then compile it to a WASM binary where I feed some compressed data. So I would need to compress the images into some format, and then I feed that compressed data into the WASM binary, and it spits out the image. And then the markdown thing that's rendering the page, it finds. But then no, the WASM thing would have to happen before. Yeah, no, that's not going to work out. That's not going to work out. How big would these images be, anyways? Let me take a screenshot. Right, I don't know if I words. I don't know if I should take a screenshot here, but I do have screenshots saved. Let me do this. I do have screenshots saved, so I'm just gonna go take a look at those images. Where is it? Pictures, screenshots. Where's pictures? Where is man? There it is. Okay, pictures, screenshots. So this is a what is the size? You know what? That's not that bad. That's 62. It's 62 KB for that screenshot. And a slightly bigger screenshot. Let me see if there's like a full screen screenshot that I took. Yeah, the bigger ones go into like 200 KB. Yeah, the bigger ones go into 200 KB. So at most, it would be just a second. Uh, hold up. Oh, wait. Yeah, there's something that I need to take care of. So give me a second here. Okay. All right. So, here, um, what I could do is I could save the entire markdown file, the entire conversation, I mean, as one markdown file. And at the top, I could write the following is my conversation with Gemini, where Gemini teaches me XYZ, whatever. And then that can be one entry, right? And then for the actual knowledge base entries, like the Gemini Convo entries are going to be, they're also going to be knowledge base entries. But the custom knowledge base entries, the ones that I'm writing, um, where was I going with this? I forgot where I was going with this. Either way, the point is both of them can be in Markdown, and I don't know if, like, does it seem kind of silly to have a different directory for each, what do you call it? Does it seem kind of silly to have a different directory for each um entry? I don't think so. There's going to be a lot of directories that way, and the way for saving this is, okay, we can save it. How are we exporting the entire database? The database cannot be exported. The database cannot be exported unless it is completely in text form. I did not think about that. Portability becomes an issue here. Yeah, portability definitely becomes an issue. How do I want to go about this? I need to sit down and think about this. Like, do I really want the images? Give me a second. I don't remember what I was displaying here. Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, the images to do I really want images to be supported in the knowledge base? I kind of feel like it would be necessary in some cases, right? Yeah, I feel like it would be necessary in some cases, because then I could, like, even write my own blog post about this. Yeah, I could write my own blog post about this. Not this, about anything. I could write my own blog post about anything and just share that on social media. Or it can be like, okay, hey, here's a thread that I've made, and I have an equivalent version of this on my website. So here's the link. You can bookmark the page if you want. Yeah, I I I do need to work on making the whole, like, export process as seamless as possible. The lower the friction in the entire workflow, the better it is. And there's a lot of stuff that I need to sit down and think about in terms of this. But for the time being, it does seem to be a pretty decent option, and it's gonna help me add images to my markdown files. I'll be able to write entire posts, which I can then update my website with, and Yeah, dude. Because the process of updating the website is also like you don't have to re-upload the entire website. You are updating the repo, right? So what I can do is I can write a tool that is gonna traverse the directories of the knowledge base on the website, and it's gonna see which directories already exist, or rather, first it's gonna traverse the entire knowledge base directory, the local knowledge base di- directory, and then it's gonna traverse the knowledge base directory of the local copy of the website that I have, because I'm gonna have to pull the entire website, um, and then work on that locally, right? So then I have two of these. I have the website. I have a local copy of the website, and I have a local copy of the knowledge base. The website contains um, the knowledge base as well. It contains an older version of the knowledge base. So then I can compare the directories between the older knowledge base and the newer knowledge base, and I can only update what is missing rather than, you know, replacing all the files completely, all the directories completely. I can only update what is missing. I like that idea. I like that idea. Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then this entire database, this entire knowledge base, well, the database for the knowledge base can then be, because this is going to be its own repo, this entire repo can then be pushed. Oh God, dude. I hope that didn't come through. Okay. Sorry. What was I saying? Yeah. So I'll write a tool to sort of diff the website version of the knowledge base and my up to date knowledge base. I'll diff them, and then whatever is missing, I'll only copy over those things. Um, I think I think an easy way to do this would be to have one file that I diff. Yeah, yeah. I think an easy way to do this would be to have one file that I diff. And actually no, wait. How do I, like, what's the directory structure going to be like here? Because I'm trying to look at it from the point of view of like, okay, what's the URL going to look like? And if we have, like, if all of the directories are hashes, I don't, I'm not sure if I want the hash showing up in, yeah, I'm not sure if I want the hash showing up in the URL. But then what's the alternative there? The alternative, I guess, would be whenever I do diff the whenever I do diff the oh, you know what I could do? Dude, I'm trying to think of it because like, okay, I'm okay, so I was just sorry, I zoned out because I was just having the thought that, okay, what if we are in a situation where in my local copy, so let's say I have the knowledge base on my website, and there's, let's say, 10 entries, right? And then in my local copy of the knowledge base, which is not on the website, in my local copy, I renamed one of the entries. Okay, this does cause changes because the directory name has to change. The hash in the directory name, the hash which is the directory name, has to change. Then there'll be an index file which has all of these entry names. In that also, we're going to have to change the entry, right? So now at this point, when I diff the up to date knowledge base with the website's knowledge base, now if I do that, we're going to have an issue where the updated website has an entry that the knowledge base doesn't, rather than the knowledge base, or well, the let me let me just say that again. We are going to run into a situation where after we have changed an entry name in the local knowledge base, and then we diff the local knowledge base with the website's knowledge base, we're going to find that the website's knowledge base has an entry that the local knowledge base doesn't. But also, the local knowledge base has an entry that the website doesn't. So I think I could add a rule in there where I say that, okay, we're going to run through the entire, like, we're going to run through the entire, we're going to run through the entire list of directories. We're going to run through all of the entries that we have, or I can just run through the index. I'll be maintaining an index file, right? So we can run through that entire index list, and any item that doesn't exist in our local knowledge base, we're going to assume that the website has rogue data that is not needed. And so we'll then delete that. We won't keep that around. Yeah, so my tool, I guess we can call it a sync tool. Website sync, website knowledge base sync tool. Dude, there's a whole lot of like architecture I'm gonna have to build around this. Um, I don't think I'll make any of this multi-threaded. For now, I'll focus on the just the functionality itself and keep everything on the main thread. Because I mean, to be fair, this doesn't need to be multi-threaded. I don't mind if there is a bit of lag in this. This is a CLI tool. It's not even going to be, this is not even going to be like any TUI based thing. It's supposed to do like a very specific thing, and it's going to do just that and be done with it. Right? But I have to write the tool in such a way that the end result is that the website's knowledge base completely um, is completely updated, and all the new info is now accessible. So I need to see if there's like anything that I need to do to like change links or something like that. Yeah, yeah. Wait, this is crazy. Holy shit. We've been going for an hour and 45 minutes, dude. That's crazy. Give me a second. Let me hydrate, and then I guess we can start writing the. Should we sit down and write the. Because I feel like we need to change the architecture of this at this point. Um, Also, at this point, I should probably create a new entry called knowledge base. Well, knowledge base v2. Okay. Yeah, give me a second here. Um, yeah, let's save that. And okay, all right. Yeah, let me hydrate and then we'll continue. Hold on. What just happened? Wait, no, hold up. What just okay, yeah, never mind. Whatever. Okay, knowledge base v2, let's say underscore v2. I can name this okay, let's yeah, whatever. So knowledge base v2 um will store all entries, no, all entries written in MD. Okay, actually it should be MD. All right. Um, each entry has its own directory. Directory is named um, after the hash of the entry name. You know what I could do? I could introduce rules into this into the new knowledge base app where I say that okay, I don't want, at least in terms of the entry name itself, I don't want I have to check something. Wait. Um I like the slug idea. So at the beginning of the stream we were talking about like slug. I like that idea. I like the slug idea, but I'm wondering about how deterministic it would be. Like, can I expect the exact same result for any set of given words um, in them? Any set of given words. Okay. In short, yes, it's yes. Did I just say yes? What is okay? Anyways, yes, it's highly. That's where yes came from. Yes, it's highly deterministic. The slug crate and most slugification libraries follow a strict step-by-step pipeline because it doesn't rely on random seeds or external states. Passing the exact passing the exact same string into the function will always yield the exact same output, the deterministic pipeline. To give you peace of mind, here is generally what happens under the hood when you call Slugify. Unicode normalization. It breaks down complex characters like whatever into its base components. Decascade slash transliteration. It converts non-ASCII characters to their closest ASCII equivalents. Okay. So like one example would be rosé pine. The E in rosé is it has like a not an apostrophe, but like I don't even know what you call that thing, but it's like a little leaf kind of thing on top. It's like a little kind of an apostrophe above the E. So that would just get converted to E, I guess. Then lowercasing, okay, everything is shifted to lowercase. Stripping, all non-alphanumeric characters like punctuation symbols are removed, and collapsing. Spaces and dashes are converted into a single dash, and leading slash trailing dashes are trimmed. Okay, so it's a fixed set of rules. Then the collision risk. While the process is deterministic, input A equals output A, it is not bijective, meaning multiple inputs can lead to the same output. You know what? That's fair. Yeah, okay. This is the hidden danger you should plan for. Um, Hello World in multiple different ways would all end up with, so okay, yeah, it's different. It's like, okay, what Gemini is saying, that you, if you write hello world, hello space world, hello comma world, with a question mark, and then hello hyphen 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 world, they all have the same result, which is hello hyphen world in all lowercase. I understand that. That's okay. That's not something I'm worried about. For my specific use case, that's not something I'm really worried about. Though good Gemini does have a good idea here. Gemini is suggesting adding an ID suffix. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. I wouldn't have thought of the ID idea. No, I like that. That is a good idea. And then I can also give it tags. I can also give the post tags. So it would make like maybe searching a little easier. I like that idea, dude. I definitely like that idea. Another thing I need to look into is firing up NeoVim to do the editing, because like TUI Journal allows you to do that. Yahtzee allows you to do that. There is a little bit of a issue with that. Once in a while, NeoVim will not exit properly, specifically when it's launched within these kinds of processes. Sometimes it won't exit properly, meaning it never exits the program, and I'm not able to get back to the program from which I launched NeoVim, and then I have to go into BTOP and then manually send it like a sig term, sig end, one of these two. I think it's called sig term. Um, Basically a termination signal. Um, yeah, I like the ID idea. It'll definitely um, it'll make it unique for sure. Sorry, zoned out. Okay. So, dude, I like the direction in which this idea is going. I need to sit down and write down this idea. I need to sit down and write down the idea. Each entry has its own directory. Um, Directory is named after the hash of the entry name. Now, since currently I don't, so this entire thing is definitely going to be in Rust. It's not going to be in Python. As convenient as doing it in Python would be, I kind of want I kind of want to have like a local copy of I want to have like a local version of this knowledge base, and yeah, I want to have a local version of this knowledge base where I can like open it up within an app and read the text if need be. And also the editing for this entire thing is going to be like within that. I mean, to be fair, for the editing, what I could do is, but then that comes back to the naming of the directory. Should I stick with like a directory hash kind of thing? I don't know if that's like the best idea. As in a hash for the directory name is what I'm saying. Not a I shouldn't have said directory hash. Yeah, I don't know if I should stick with that idea. Let me talk to Gemini about this. I'm gonna lay out the entire idea. I have to think of the workflow for this as well, because initially this entire thing is gonna be it's not gonna have TUI. Yeah, initially this entire thing is not gonna have TUI in it. Um and I don't want to introduce editing capabilities into it. You're only going to be launching this through NeoVim. If you don't have NeoVim, then like tough shit. I can look into um, extending that later on. I can look into changing what is used. Oh, I could probably introduce like an environment variable. So if somebody wants to use, let's say, I don't know, gedit or a more recent one I looked into. I think it's called mousepad, leafpad. No, there's one to do with leaves and another which I believe it's mousepad. Hold on. Yeah, it's mousepad. Um, that's a more GUI based thing. But yeah, you can provide like your own path for it. I can make that customizable. Yeah. You know what? I can make that customizable, and in my case, I'll make it NeoVim because like for I believe for Yahtzee or for TUI Journal, or maybe for both. I don't remember. No, definitely for Yahtzee. For Yahtzee, there was definitely I had to specify a separate environment variable in my Bash RC file so that Yahtzee can see that and then launch the appropriate application based on that. Yeah, dude. Okay. All right. Each entry has its own directory. Directory is named after the hash of the entry name. I'm still not too sure about this, dude. Yeah, I'm still not too sure about this. Because we have the yeah, no, I'm still not too sure about this. Like what would be the benefit, especially if I'm working directly with the directories? Like if I were to never touch the directories, then it's a different story, right? But in this case, I am actually touching the directories. So what would be the benefit? What would be the benefit of having the directories as also, I could make this incredibly simple. Like, I could work on a viewer, a document viewer kind of thing. Hold on. Does TUI Journal also use Ratatouille? Let me just check their TUI Journal. Let me check the repo. What was I gonna look for? Yeah, Cargo Tamil. And in here we check for R, Ratatouille. Let me just search. Oh yeah, there it is, Ratatouille. There's also AR board. You know what I could do? I could look at the various crates that this person is using, and that could give me some ideas for ways that I could implement things in my own version, because my own version is very, very heavily inspired by this application. This application, I would still be using this application if I didn't have a very custom requirement. My custom requirement is why I'm building my own application. Otherwise, this application is just amazing. If I was just sticking with plain text stuff and I wasn't storing each and I wasn't storing each what was I saying? Yeah, if I was I saying that I wasn't. Oh, if I was writing only plain text applications and I wasn't storing each entry in its own separate directory, then I could have definitely used this. Um, I could have continued to use TUI Journal. But because I have a very specific requirement, so I need to do it in a different way. Now, here's what I'm thinking, right? We create something pretty much like TUI Journal. TUI Journal, though, it has the added capability of basic text editing within the app itself. And if you want, you can launch that, you can open up that entry in NeoVim. And it's kind of clever how it uses that, how it uses Linux in order to be able to do this. Because what it's doing is that entry is not a separate file. That entry, it gets written to some temporary file, some temporary location, and you are editing that file through your NeoVim. And then once you save and exit NeoVim, then that data gets written back, or it gets read from that file that you just edited, and it gets added to your entry. So your entry then gets updated in that way. Now, in my case, what I plan on doing is I'm not going to add basic editing capability. My editing is always going to be done through NeoVim, like always. Um, so all I need to do is add the ability to launch that same file through NeoVim, and in this case, it's going to be a file. So the file itself is what's opening. We're going to open up the file through NeoVim. Well, we're going to open up the file within the application through NeoVim and do our editing and then exit. There's not going to be any temp file or anything. Um, I wish I had like a better database design that could very easily be ported over to or converted to the website format, but like I just don't, because there are multiple files involved here. Specifically, there are markdown, specifically, there are images involved. It's because of the images that things get a little bit complicated. Yeah, yeah. It's because of the images that things get a tiny bit complicated. We need multiple files, unless there's some kind of like embedding mechanism I can come up with. But okay, give me give me a second here. We have been streaming for 2 hours and 7 minutes. That's pretty awesome. All right, we're gonna go over to this person's stream. Let me see if we can even access their chat. Yes, we can. Um, I should be careful doing that. Let's not do that. My God, what did I just show? Oh, okay, that's fine. Um, Fortunately, that's just the downloads folder, and there's like a bunch of my Twitch VODs and some other images of like Twitch recap and stuff. Yeah, let's be careful doing that. Now, let me start out this raid. Can we raid this person? Yes, we can. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today's stream. I need to sit down and write down this idea before I move on from this and continue with all the other stuff that I'm doing. And this has to be noted down as a future project idea, which I'm probably going to do in steps. The initial version of it is going to be very much text based, and then future versions can have Ratatouille. But yeah, okay, that's going to be it for today's stream. Um, I want to say we made progress today, but actually we kind of did. We made progress today. We did research on a bunch of things, chatting about stuff and doing research on stuff. And I'm just gonna rename the title to a bunch of things: Markdown and TUI journal and my website and whatever. I'll see what topics were within this, and then I'll do something based on that. Okay, so that's going to be it for today's stream. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.